Welcome to Beyond the Signboard, where you get the opportunity to learn all there is to know about your real estate journey from professionals who are passionate about property. I'm Amy Bennett, your host, and I look forward to providing you with education, inspiration, and a behind-the-scenes look at the world of real estate. Well, I am so excited to have you here, Mr. Kieran Courtney, co-founder of Blink Plus. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I think this is going to be good.
It's exciting. It's a role reversal. I've been on yours.
I know. I was thinking about it earlier, and it's probably something that we didn't discuss prior to jumping on. You actually come up in quite a few of our presentations that we do with the marketing aspect of Blink Plus, which I'm sure we'll get into later. And obviously your journey of going from, the other side of the business and transitioning into the sales side and obviously really capturing the voice of the brand and the identity throughout the marketplace. So now I'm excited to be here.
It's so exciting, and we will share our journey of real estate, of which we both had. I know our listeners are going to be on a really good journey hearing of how you got to where you are, though, which is really awesome. So why don't we get straight into that, and you let us know your career journey. So from where to here?
So my career journey was I guess it's probably not the normal sort of journey you hear to end up in real estate or to actually end up in business. And I think it's probably a good one to cover off. So to go right back to the start and to touch on the schooling. So school probably wasn't for me.
Sure.
And I was in probably a system that didn't quite understand how to educate and how to sort of guide me throughout the process. So I found myself leaving school, going and doing a plumbing apprenticeship.
That was here on the coast, right?
It was, yeah. So I did that in Noosa, grew up in Noosa and had the opportunity to do that. And from there, essentially progressed through that, got to the point where, I spent a little bit of time in Brisbane actually running commercial jobs at the age of sort of 18 to 19. And then from there, found myself transitioning into the oil and gas industry, which was basically right as the boom had landed. So quite fortunate there and obviously found myself working for a company, Lucas Drilling, who were quite big at the time. And at the time, that actually landed the biggest drilling contract that had ever been awarded in Australia. So I jumped on that, spent some time working for those guys, found myself moving up through the ranks of the actual rig that we were on very quickly. And then I believe just as I turned 20, I got moved into the assistant driller role on the rig we were on, which was
AD, right?
AD. So at the time, I believe I was the youngest driller to be moved up at Lucas, the company that we were working for. So that was quite an experience.
That's epic. How did you get into drilling? Because I don't imagine it's an industry that's easy to get into.
No, it wasn't. At the time, I think because of the boom, there were so many people obviously leaving coastal jobs and going out there, but there was a big focus at the time on taking people that had done a trade so they could actually go in, they could understand the process of moving up through the ranks, learning a role, and then obviously running a crew at the end of it. So I was fortunate enough. I had a recommendation and a kind of a foot in the door.
Awesome.
Still wasn't an easy process to get in, but from there, had the ability to move through that. So that was good at the time, and then found myself transitioning over into the actual gas fields himself for a few different gas companies, and then working my way sort of up till specialising in sort of live asset tie-ins. So
what does that look like?
So basically when they come in at the end of a project and they want to tie in a new field that wasn't actually in the scope originally, we would go in and basically squeeze off the live gas lines up to sort of metre diameter and tie in new fields. So all live works, all on permits, all as exciting as it sounds that it all explodes. It's quite quite regulated and boring. So
not risky. Did it feel risky?
Oh, look, there's human error and there's complacency. Yeah. So no, you're always it can go bad very quickly, and it has gone bad very quickly.
Yeah.
Fortunately not while I was around.
Yeah.
But,
and what kind of mindset do you need to be in? Do you need to be at a sort of a heightened level? Are you sort of in that fight or flight mode during those?
Look, it's probably similar to obviously being in the real estate industry, contractual side of it. There's there's a lot of things to get right and a lot of room to sort of not get things wrong.
Yeah, sure.
You're working under a lot of permits, and it sort of covers everything in the area of what's a live asset and what's not a live asset, and sort of from there, there's a series of processes and obviously there's movies out on ones that have gone wrong and processes and shortcuts have been taken, and it's never a good ending. But no, look, it's quite regulated, and when done right, you're fairly safe.
Big hours though, we sort of spoke about that, about time away and some of the, guys that you worked with, it's long stints and long days, I'm assuming.
It is. And it was funny. It was a conversation I had with one of our team earlier this morning about not stopping, and obviously we'll touch on where the career sort of took me to the real estate sector, and did quite well in a short period of time. And a lot of that was put down to obviously being very good with systems and processes, having previously been regulated,
yes,
but also having that very driven work ethic of, we would be essentially on the rig or in the fields between 6 and 6 or 12 and 12. So you're 12 hours non-stop working in the sun, and then you've got your hour either side. So
climatically not the greatest place,
no,
right?
So it builds a very strong mindset, and it was essentially taking that and implementing that into your workplace and into the new industry of obviously when I got into real estate, and it was doing the 12 hours a day. I was first in the office and I was last person to leave every single day of the week.
You were really match fit for it.
Yeah, and it showed, and it proved, and it worked out very quickly. Obviously taking all the systems and processes and being very regulated, and then also having the ability to show up every single day regardless of, like we were speaking about before, if you have a bad day.
Yeah, that's right.
You leave it at the door. You have to come in, you have to do your job, and you have to give the best service possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's not going to sort of progress
And those two things really are critical, I think. My background's in pharmaceuticals, and certainly that's, the compliance there is, through the roof as well. So, not dissimilar that, my whole life was sort of systems and processes. I love a good spreadsheet, and I like ticking off a to-do list. So, there's certainly something in that, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, you talk to a lot of people. A lot of people are either very structured and very sort of, they know how their week's going to go about, or they're very unstructured and somehow they just make it work. So I think,
what are you?
Oh, look, I have a list in my head.
Yes.
And my fiancée always says, what is this list?
Yes.
And I'm like, it's all there, don't worry about it. And she's got no idea what's going on, but it all comes together.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Outside of that, I'm very structured with the time that I wake up.
Yes.
The time that I go to work.
Yes.
The hours that I spend at work.
Yeah.
Eating, sometimes it strays a little bit with, being in a busy day and being and that sort of stuff. But no, I get home, I have a sauna almost every night at the same time, and then I'll go into the ice bath at the same time every night. So I'm very structured, and I think it takes a while to build that habit and routine. But when you do get there, it sort of brings everything together. As unstructured as you can be, it'll sort of shape and give you guidance.
That's epic. I admire that so much. Certainly something I've never been able to do successfully in my life. So I love that. And what about your fiancée, Jem? Is she the same?
She's very structured. We're both very meticulous. We laugh. I have friends come over for dinner, and as they leave, they'll spin a stool around to see which one of us cracks first. So there's a bit of a joke. Our house is a display home that we live in. So people come around and they don't know where to sit and they don't know what to touch. So
that's classic.
We're very meticulous.
I think that's a great trait to both share. Like there's nothing worse, is there, than one. I know that's my husband's worst nightmare, is my inability to put clothes away. So I'm sure that's leaving you.
That's me too. So I won't say I'm perfect.
There's got to be something, hasn't there? You have to have. In a perfect world, and trying to, I guess, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I admit it, but I think you've got to have that little bit of messiness. That's the one thing for me is my clothes. So I'll admit it. I'll always hide them away before someone visits.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah. Okay. So we have been in the oil and gas industry for how long?
It was about 8 years.
Yeah.
On and off with a bit of travelling in between. I lived over in Canada and spent some time in Mexico and
Epic.
Central America and so forth. So that was, that sort of played a big role into it as well.
Yeah. So Canada, that was working?
That was at the time. Look, it was a holiday with some work. There wasn't a whole heap of work, but I did show up some days.
And what did that look like? Was it sort of skiing, snow season? That's pretty popular.
It was, yeah. So moved over to Whistler, and then I ended up working on the ski slopes for quite an amount of time while I was there, and then also picked up some contracting work while I was there, working for the staff housing doing some building works as well.
Awesome.
Which was good.
You've lived many lives in a short amount of time. I love it.
Keeps me busy.
It does. Look, there's no secret to anyone that's ventured into real estate. Like every guest that I've had that's been in the industry is always looking for not necessarily what's next, but we love the challenge. We love the no 2 days are the same with the industry. So Canada, South America, and then real estate.
Yeah. So Central America, and then got back and look, I think throughout the time where I spent in all of those industries, everyone was always pushing me towards sales. They're like, you can talk underwater and you can talk absolutely rubbish.
Ice to an Eskimo.
Exactly. So from there was a big push to go to sales, and it was there was an amount of time where I wasn't actually sure which area I was going to go to until an opportunity came up, and that's obviously where the sort of journey started, entering into a Ray White office, and from there sort of progressing through. I started as a sales associate.
Here on the coast, wasn't it?
Yeah, yep. Sort of focused around the area of Peregian Beach, Marcus Beach and Castaways. And I spent, say, 6 weeks to 2 months as an associate, and then got moved up to a sales agent quite quickly.
Done. That's a huge achievement for those that don't know.
Yeah, it was good. It was the progression was quick, but also, the work was put in, like we were saying before.
Of course, absolutely.
I was in the office at 7 o'clock in the morning and couldn't understand that nobody else showed up until 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I couldn't quite fathom that, what was everyone else doing for the hour and a half that I was in the office, obviously setting up and getting everything underway. So, from there, moved over to a sales agent and worked in conjunction with the principal for about 6 months to 12 months, and then obviously bringing in my own listings at the same time, and then from there sort of captured a marketplace and grew from there.
Yeah, incredible. And like you said, achieving some, massive goals in a really short amount of time, which is no easy feat, that's for sure.
No, look, and it was good at the same time. There was a lot of structure, systems and processes, and then obviously the Ray White way of, obviously going in and nurturing a database and calling that meticulously. And it was something where, having spent so long in an industry where, you're not scared to say what's on your mind. So going and making the calls, there wasn't a fear inside of me to go, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. So, some days we were sort of hitting between 70 and 100 calls, and that was quite normal to do, and sort of looking after a database of a patch area that was about 2,500 to 3,000 homes, and sort of hitting them every 3 months.
Yep.
And it just become this normality of, going in, doing your calls, doing open homes, and at the time, it was obviously when video was just starting to come in, so really putting a focus on, the Wednesday opens, and then Friday night, sunset viewings with drinks, which I know you've got a big focus on.
Yeah.
And it just started to pay off.
Yeah, absolutely. You are meeting people, doing things different. When you talk about your 70 to 100 calls, I mean, that's, you have to be match fit, don't you, to have that, that poor number 99, like you've still got to be at 110%, don't you?
You do. And, it's understanding the deflection of, the aggression on the calls, and it's not all the time. You call it 2 or 3 times, and the ones that are going to be easy to call, and the ones that are going to be hard to call, and you just
they've got a smiley face next to them, right?
Yeah, and try and sit there and smile. You're smiling as you're dialing the number and it's ringing, and you're like, oh, please don't answer. It's like number 90. You're like, I don't have it in me at 450.
Shit, would you go back to that?
I would.
I love that.
I would. I loved it.
That's so good.
Yeah, there was something about it. I enjoyed the process, and speaking with a lot of younger agents after I'd left, and obviously now that we're in the marketing side of real estate and going in and talking to a lot of new agencies and offices that are opening up on the marketing, and there's a bit of a misconception sometimes with agents that haven't spent a lot of time in that model of what it takes to actually nurture a database.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know it's there's a lot of agencies that don't focus on that, and it works very well for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, you obviously came into that with a lot of great skills. One thing you said, which I'd love to sort of delve down, you mentioned about you weren't afraid of a tough conversation, or that was your previous experience. Like, what did that look like? Is that in the oil and gas industry? Yeah,
I think, having gone into that industry sort of 17 years old, becoming a plumber and then working commercial job sites, 18, 19 years old, running commercial plumbing assets on a big scale job site, you don't have the time to kind of go, I'm scared to have the conversation with another tradie or with another foreman or a site supervisor or so forth. So I think from there, and then obviously dealing throughout my time working in the oil and gas fields, you're dealing with a lot of clients and you're dealing with a lot of representatives from Shell and Santos and, Buru Energy and so forth. So the fear of conversation and the intimidation of who you're actually talking to slowly wears off, and I think you become seasoned to it.
So so that's great that you say that, because it's a learnt behaviour. It's not something you had as a kid.
Look, I wouldn't be scared as a kid to go and walk up to a stranger and sit down and have a conversation, but I also think there's a side of resilience there. So for anyone coming into it, no, you can absolutely build up the resilience, and I think we walk in and sit down and we'll start making calls, and we'll be a month in, and for somebody who's not making the 70, 80, 100 calls a day, they might have only done 40 calls.
That's right.
Over the month or over the 2 months. So I think it's also having the ability or sorting out, or going and looking for a mentor that's going to be able to sit down with you and go, okay, you've made 40 calls. This person's made 200. They've been told where to go X amount of times more, and then having the ability to sit down with somebody and also learn the dialogue and also learn how to diffuse a conversation and just dismiss it, in the right way.
Overcoming objections.
Exactly, because I think, you get on the phone, you ring somebody and they say, well, why have you rung me? And they're like, and that's the call done. And they're not going to want to call for a month.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If you're calling for an actual purpose, which is what's not taught.
That's right.
You're calling for a genuine reason, and they might not be selling, but also they might have not known that their neighbour down the road was also sold for an X amount of market value, and it could be the top sale in the street. So I think there's an importance around that as well, and doing it in the right way, doing it in a genuine way.
Totally. People just feel it, don't they? Correct. Energetically. And I think, enthusiasm is something that's really underrated, I think, in real estate. Obviously it's coupled with a lot of other skill sets, but enthusiasm, you want someone that's passionate about your property. You want someone that, like you or I at 11 p.m. is thinking, fuck, what am I doing for that client? Really, enthusiasm and passion. And if you've still got it at call 99 of the day, there's magic in that. Keep going. Like you said, in my role as a BDM, I was signing up sort of 20, new managements a month. even in my career as a sales agent, I'm not selling 20 properties a month. Yeah. So, to be able to fine tune that dialogue, to, overcome the same objections, to get really strong, in those conversations, you're exactly right. It just fast tracks the process, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people go into it and they get taught to care, and they try and do it in a fake way to get the listing to sell it. If you're very analytical and you're very good with numbers, stick to that.
Correct.
You can still show the care and the value through the way that you go about it. But if you're not the kind of person, I got a lot of people say to me, you're very genuine and you're not a sales agent. And no, I was a business person that was selling properties. And I think that was where I did quite well in the marketplace I was in, because everyone else was trying to be this polished, sharpened fake sales agent.
That's right.
And, I had a lady that had, by chance I'd spoken to her on the day that she'd sold her business and that she'd done for 25 years. So I dropped a bottle of wine out and there was nothing else behind it. And she rang 6 months later and told us she was selling. And this was a lady that, the principal that I was under had spoken to for 15 years, and she was never going to sell. Yeah. She called me, and it was never about obviously trying to get the listing and following her up again and again and again. It was just a genuine gesture to say congratulations on that. And I think some people do that really well, and some people do that in a way that is sort of not genuine.
Well, I think, Kieran, as well, some people just don't do it at all. So, even, doing it in an insincere way, but definitely, it's how you make people feel.
Yeah.
That's this life business, isn't it? It's literally, when my head hits the pillow, whatever time that is, it's have I made a difference? How have I made people feel? That's always my gauge of success, just hoping that I've been able to do that. And, for that person, I've had similar scenarios. She may not have even got a bottle of wine from the person that sold the business, and so it's just about being in that moment. But also I think courageously stepping into that and doing that act. So many people, always say, walking past rubbish, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. And, there's nothing stopping someone picking up, rubbish, returning the shopping, trolley. Those are indications in life, aren't they? And again, you demonstrated to her that, that it was for no other reason other than celebration.
Yep.
And that's success.
Yeah.
Awesome. How exciting. What do you love about your current role? But first, actually, let's talk about your current role. Sorry, we are so deep into real estate. We better move to Blink Plus.
I could talk real estate all day.
Me too. Hence the podcast.
I know, I love it. So basically from real estate, I had a bit of time out of the industry and then went into some small scale developments and, flipped a couple of properties and sort of really went back to that side of things, and that was kind of the passion that brought me over to real estate initially, and was very fortunate at the time. It was just 2020, June, just before the market actually jumped, and we were fortunate enough to get a place in Noosa that had the ability to be subdivided, and then did some renovations and a dual key and so forth off that.
Did you do the plumbing?
No, I'm
off the tools.
I'm a shocking plumber. That's why I left.
Love it.
And then from there, obviously, went back into business with Matt at Blink Productions.
Yes.
So originally Matt had shot all my videos, and we'd spent quite a bit of time, obviously, keeping in touch after. And
video is huge for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, video was a big focus, and I will say that's essentially what built my brand and got me to where I was very quickly.
Yeah.
And, to this day, I still swear by it that without having done the video and sort of religiously as I did, I don't think I would have had the successes that I had so quickly. So off the back of that, we spent a lot of time sort of discussing the business at the time that Matt solely owned, and obviously a vision of taking it from the brand that it was at the time and really sort of changing what it was presented as and move it into the more high-end space and really focus on the agents and agencies that see the vision and want to grab that and really build a brand and a brand voice and focus in on their marketplace. So from there, we sort of changed the way that the brand was structured and
became
sort of,
that destination.
Yeah, look, really focused on the high-end sort of video and quality of service of what we actually wanted to deliver to the client.
Yeah.
And then from there sort of stepped into the business as well with Matt as a business partner and grew up from there into that more prestigious market with the likes of X Media and so forth. So we now really focus on sort of high-end cinematic productions throughout the real estate industry. And, we've got some clients that have sort of come on board and come on the journey and, to see some that have stepped in from day one in the industry of no real estate experience prior to, growing a very high-end brand that's capturing the whole market and, with a sole focus on video and actually marketing the brand and agents internally of it.
Amazing.
So, yeah, it's good to see it works. And like we were discussing before we jumped on, there's a big misconception of obviously the weight and the power that video actually has.
Absolutely.
So we'll jump into that a little bit further but yeah, off the back of Blink Productions, there was this need in the industry of a DIY sort of video solution, or not even a DIY solution at the time. It was obviously opening up the marketplace to give video to more agents and agencies. Essentially, it started on the Sunshine Coast, but then it grew from there to, okay, how do we provide this service throughout, Queensland, throughout Australia? And, we spent some time looking at franchises and obviously looking at other models that had franchised and the difficulties they had. But from there, we essentially built out the model of Blink Plus, which is a DIY video solution that gives agents the ability to shoot their own listing videos. They upload it to us, and then we have an editing team that craft a cinematic short-form video and send it back. And, from there, it's now grown across Australia. It's starting to grow into New Zealand and obviously scaling out from there. So that's been a big focus of mine over the last 2 years. Yeah, it's been fun, having previously spent so much time in the industry with a big focus on video, to take that product now and offer it out to agents. We've got an agent using it in Esk.
Yeah, amazing.
And we've got agents using it in, Moranbah and, all across Australia. And we get sign-ups every day in remote locations, and it's putting them in a position where they're able to go into listings and offer a video product to a marketplace that hasn't previously been able to offer it.
Absolutely.
And it's putting them above the other agents that they're going up against because no one else can offer it.
Absolutely. So accessibility, is that something that people, in remote areas, obviously they didn't have a videographer in town, or, maybe they had to wait a week or something like that?
Yeah. So talking to some of the team in Airlie Beach, they're waiting up to 7 days to get a booking, and then another 7 days to get the product delivered back.
Yeah.
So they're looking at 14 days turnaround.
And an exorbitant cost, I'm imagining, if they don't have a videographer.
Yeah, anywhere from sort of $600 to $1,000 for a video. And we've designed design the product that you're essentially on a one business day turnaround. So from when you upload it, you'll have it back within that one business day. And look, most of them are coming back within sort of the 12-hour turnaround. So it's
amazing.
it's quite exceptional. And then obviously to take a product to market where previously you were paying sort of $550 for a video only, you're paying around $100 now.
Huge difference. I mean, you know that there's no secret. I am a super fan of Blink Plus. In fact, I tracked you guys down
We've
through
had you
Instagram.
Since day one, yeah.
Literally, I saw the coming soon for the brand launch and just jumped on it. I too know the power of video, and I'm a super fan of the ability to do it. Flexibility. You know, I think. What I've loved the most is, with great education. I know sometimes I'm not the best student. I've had to have a couple of.
You've been very good. No,
I do like to give it a go and take the gimbal and enjoy, coaching and inspiring other team members to do the same because anybody can do it.
Yeah, and that's a big focus. We're really trying to push and get across to everyone. You don't have to be skilled in, tech, or you don't have to be someone that can do everything on their phone. It's a very simple product, and it does open up a lot of things. And, you also have the ability to upload your drone footage and
that's right.
piece to cameras and intros and outros. We've got agents doing just sold videos or coming soon. And, a dream of ours would obviously be to get it into the realestate.com, the realestate.com coming soons and so forth. So there's a video on everything, statistically it's I think 30-ish% of listings that are going live on realestate.com at the moment have a video. So
it's just bizarre, isn't it?
It really blows my mind. There's still 70% of the marketplace that aren't doing video, and you're talking REA's stats alone, 403% more inquiry on listings with video.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we, both of us just sort of shake our head and say why. Look, for that 70% as well, obviously, you and I are both believers that a video isn't, a carousel of photos as well.
Yeah,
and I think you've brought a product to the market that is simple, cost effective. The agent can do it. That's what I love. It can be an overwhelming process for a client. We might have tenants in place. Schedules don't line up with the videographer. And certainly I've used the Blink Productions team for videos as well. But it's just great to have that option, especially for demonstrating to interstate buyers. So, prior to somebody jumping, on a plane, it gives them a really good insight. I certainly use drone video footage as well, so we'll be able to identify where the property is, what's around it as well. It's been a great process. I definitely wanted to just reiterate as well that I think, we'll talk about the evolution of technology, but I think, it is edited by professionals. That's what I love. And whilst I'll guide and say sort of like this is the flow, I love to give your team, this is what I'm looking for, this is the outcome, and that's obviously something I've spoken with the clients, like having a professional that has that ability that, ultimately would go, oh, look, Amy, I get where you're coming from, but from a syncing or, intertwined with the music, it just doesn't work. And so we have that really great, mutual respect that your team are the experts in editing and getting it done.
Yeah, and it gives the control back to the agent, and it really makes it their own product because they're not having somebody. And, it gets to the point of, some agents don't even show up to their listings anymore to get the photos and videos done where, and I think something to highlight as well at the same time is on an average, when we're seeing agents shoot their own videos, it's sort of taking between 6 and 12 minutes. So, we're trying to kill that sort of perception that they're going to be there for 2 hours to shoot a property.
Yeah,
it's
a great fact. Absolutely.
And we did a training video mid last year, and I think even doing the training and some updates on mics and so forth, I think we're only there for 20 minutes. So
I think I did have a few little little outtakes. So I think we had road noise, we had a few little things to contend with, but
keep us on our toes.
Oh well, I mean, this is just a continued conversation always on this podcast about what does happen beyond the signboard. Yeah. Like I'm sure I had 20 cuts that didn't make it, but that's the joy of it, isn't it? But we had a great time. We did do an intro and outro. Look, that's a great thing to ask, what's your thoughts on agents being on camera?
We have this conversation every day almost doing training and working with networks, and we've got a lot of corporate partners now. My personal belief, and obviously looking at the statistics of agent growth and, the agents that are very successful in marketplaces and throughout Australia, I think it's a must.
Yeah.
And look, it's something that there's a lot of fear of obviously being on the camera, and it just comes back to working with your videographer or, using a product like Blink Plus, spending the time, we see a lot of people time and time again rock up out of the car, hopping off the phone, they're trying to write something on their phone and then they're trying to do a piece to camera and they're not getting it right and they say, oh, don't worry about it, I don't have time. So I think it just comes back to prepreparation.
Absolutely.
There's so many tools
Practicing your
now.
lines.
And look, you don't have to say a lot. What we sort of recommend for agents is do a quick intro, so see you at the next open home. It's just putting your face in the property, and obviously if you're, you have the ability to be in the video, opening some doors, it starts to build that brand recognition, and buyers and sellers will start to see you more and more, and it just sort of starts to brand you as the sort of go-to for that marketplace.
You identified that obviously when you were in real estate.
Yeah,
you
massively.
knew that was important. So you were on camera in yours?
Absolutely.
So really
everything.
pioneering with that, I imagine.
Yeah, look, at the time it was something that was only just starting to really come into the real estate industry, and Gavin Rubenstein, obviously, as we all know, he's very big on his piece to camera, which has left my mind at the moment. But I think it's making it your own. Don't try and become another agent that's doing the quirky, funny videos if that's not your personality.
No.
Stay true to yourself, or it's just not going to come across right.
But we've seen a few of those, right?
No, we see it all the time. I just shake my head. But no, look, absolutely, be in the videos. I see quite a few people try and do voiceovers. Just from a marketing side, it's very restrictive to what the actual shooter can do with the footage. If you've done a voiceover, they have to sort of follow that flow of what you've done. So just be mindful if you are thinking of going and doing a 2-minute voiceover. It's very restrictive in the back-end editing process as to how the video can be delivered. So
good
that's
intro,
something,
good outro.
Yeah, you don't have to control the whole video with a voiceover and shot to shot to shot because it may not present the way you're thinking when you're actually talking about the property.
It's a long time to talk for 2 minutes. I mean, you and I could probably we could chat forever, but
we could do a half an hour video on a property.
Oh, absolutely. But look, I mean, there's just that many examples of what not to do. But that's what I love. What your team has such a good suite of, the best of the best ultimately, and that's with both arms of the business. Yep. So if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
Look, I think I would go back to real estate. There's a weird part of me, and I think every time I say that out loud, my fiancée looks at me and shakes her head because she saw.
She'd like a fiancée.
Oh, yeah. She saw what went into it, and we'd be heading out off Noosa on the boat or jet ski, and the phone would ring, and I'm like, I've got to take it. And she's like, you don't have to take it. You ring them back later. I'm like, no, I've got to take it. So I just become consumed to the industry. But yeah, I think there's some unfinished business there, and obviously having gone away and really specialised in some development style, and obviously turning over properties and, what the marketplace is really looking for on that side of things. I think, it gives you the ability to go back in and obviously style properties right, and then a big focus on video and building a brand identity. So, I think across the industry there's a massive gap for the ability of an agency or agent to come in and really capture that. And I think you do that quite well. And
thank you.
And, you do come up in a lot of conversations of obviously transitioning from a different role into a sales role, and being very focused on what your actual brand voice is going to be and staying true to it. And, you've been meticulous, and that's, I think, what's grown your brand from looking in on the outside.
Yeah, and I think consistency is key, isn't it, I think, as well. But I think, probably what's really important to add into that, I guess, from my perspective, is always knowing what your objective is.
Yep.
There's no such thing as a coincidence. Nothing happens by accident. And I think a lot of people miss that, style by design with a business and with a brand. And I think that's, a really important thing. And that's really the premise behind the podcast has always been about, look, what happens beyond the signboard, but, what is the truth of what we do as well? Yeah. And I think that's, probably a really fair assumption that people think, sometimes with me, they're like, oh, everything's pink. It's like, yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot more behind that as well. But, it is really important to stand out. Like you said, you can have skills that do that. I think having the courage to be on camera, like ultimately, I mean, you and I know that, if the stats don't lie, that 70% of people don't don't do a video and number of reasons, whether they don't want to be on the video, they don't have the courage to ask the client for the budget, they don't have the skill set. There's just so many, reasons why, and it's just a great opportunity to capitalise on that. Yeah. You and I are always, looking at prop tech, what's coming next and everything like that. What myths or misconceptions would you say there is in your current industry?
I think the biggest one, and it's probably because we spend so much time in this actual space, is that the video isn't as important as what it is, and that it's the first thing to go.
Trim from the budget?
Yeah, look, okay. I had the conversation with a new agency yesterday, and they were asking about photo only packages, and I said, look, can I go back one step further and ask, what is your brand? What's the plan behind your brand, and how are you going to represent yourself in the marketplace? And obviously diving into that a little deeper and having the conversation, it was to present in that higher end space. And I was looking at it going, but the first thing you're going to take out is the video, which is a must. You're selling high end properties. That's the first thing that needs to stay. So I think it's... That's
like a rag to a bull with you, isn't it, right?
I was like, guys, come on. And they're both looking at each other going, yeah, we know.
I feel like that's a mystery shopper call for your business, right?
Look, I think, but having the conversation, we have this conversation a lot, and I think it's going back to sitting down. I think everyone that's in real estate, they come in and they work up through the ranks and they become an agent, and then whether they get a team under them, and you fall into this rut of being busy, and then all of a sudden you get to the point and you go, okay, I want to go open my own agency.
Yeah.
And then they go and open their own agency and they're chasing their tail from day one. So I think a big focus needs to be stepping back, working out what your brand is, working out what your identity is as an agent, whether you're a standalone agent or whether you're an agency, and actually putting some things on paper and going, these are non-negotiables. This is what our brand is.
Yes.
So when you're sitting down having a conversation, a listing presentation, it's like, no, this is what we're doing.
Correct.
Not, okay, if you we'll sign up right now, but we only want a photo only package. And they're like, great, done.
Doesn't align with who we are.
It doesn't, and you lose that brand identity too
Absolutely,
quickly.
That's exactly right.
So I think,
and people notice.
They do.
Don't they? Like, honestly.
But we get consumed as the agents and go, oh, that's fine, we'll get this one on and we'll do it on the next one. But then it's all of a sudden the VPA conversation's gotten too hard and the market's shifted.
Yep.
Now we're trying to have the conversation about how pricing's shifting, but also have the conversation about VPA. So
vendor paid advertising?
Yeah, look, I think it's something that if you're going to go in and you're going to do it, you need to make a decision from day one of, yes, it's a part of your packages, or if you're willing to compromise and pull it out, you pay for it yourself.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's going to jeopardise and it's going to change the look of your brand over time, because if you're swapping and changing on every single one, it's not going to be consistent.
Look, I mean, like consistency, there it is again. Like you and I are that to a T. Like I've never differentiated from my marketing campaign, whether that's from a $500,000 villa to a $2 million property. Like absolutely, do we amp up some things? Do we pull back some things? Do we look at who the, intended buyer is? Absolutely. But there is a core, non-negotiable of probably, I'd say, at least 25 marketing elements. Yeah. And you understand that, and your product has always been a part of that for me. But ultimately, you can't do your job, properly without that, or you can't sleep well at night, which is my ethos, knowing I haven't done all of those things.
And it may not be something that you want to talk about on here, and I might be throwing you under the bus, but are you going in with a good, better, best, or are you going in with one package and saying this is non-negotiable?
No. Yeah, so I have 4 options and they're just building and better and better.
Beautiful.
And obviously being able to articulate each of those elements. So, my previous role was our marketing and operations manager. So I understand each of the marketing elements, could talk to them, till I'm blue in the face. So I understand their position and the reason why they're in the package. Yeah, absolutely. But then in saying that, you do have your add-ons and you've got unique properties. Yep. I've had a client recently that's like, we want to be in the FIM review. Absolutely. So we have connections to that through Domain. We'll get you in the Prestige magazine. And I know the costing. So I know, off the top of my head, that's what that's going to cost. And I know the benefits of why. And if somebody asked for something that I don't think is an alignment of where I'm marketing the property, I'll have a conversation. But ultimately, if a vendor wants to try that process, and it aligns with what I, see in marketing, ultimately we all just want to know that, when the deal goes across the line, that it's the best that's in the market.
Yeah. And I think an important thing to say as well for anyone that's not doing video and they want to be able to pitch video in a better light is pay for one yourself.
Absolutely.
Do a good video. It doesn't have to be on the best house that you have to list.
Do it on your own house.
Yeah, you just need to be able to spin your laptop around and show a quality video
Absolutely.
of a property, capturing the area, capturing the marketplace, showing your brand, and from there it's easier to sell. A lot of people go in and sell it without an actual example to sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, we all know quality sells itself.
Absolutely.
So,
I did that. Look, I did that with drones. I literally got a drone operator to photograph my house, showed all the different angles, and I use that as a case study. Obviously, a number of sales down the track, I don't need to do that. But definitely I was like, look, how am I going to paint my home in the best light? Awesome. So real estate is so we just love it, don't we?
It's ingrained in us.
Talk forever. I know. I think, look, everybody that's been on the podcast that's in or has been in the industry, like literally there's just something in it. And funny you said going back to school, you sort of said that, that mainstream schooling or, there's something magic, isn't there, that, obviously that's in all of our DNA. I mean, if I had one more report card that was like, Amy would apply herself better if you didn't talk in class. And here I am, like chatterbox galore. You were probably the same, were you?
Yeah, I didn't pay much attention. I think it's probably one of those funny quotes you always hear. My woodwork teacher at the time said you're either going to be very successful or we'll stay tuned. We're not sure where you're going to end up.
Yeah, wow.
But, it's that thing. It's putting the attention to where you're actually interested.
How powerful are words? Is that amazing what what can motivate you, drive you? Yep. We've all got that, whoever your woodworker teacher is, wherever he is now, you think, I've had that many, times or challenges. And, like both of us being young in the industry or, wherever, we've been, when you were, running the teams that you were at 20, like there's something that motivates you, isn't there? When people don't believe you can succeed, like there's that hunger. And I love that. And I've loved that as a woman in corporate pharmaceuticals, career and things like that. Like there's nothing better than overcoming someone else's, limitations of you.
Yeah, I think it sets up something to go and chase and try and prove.
Exciting. Looking forward to seeing what that looks like for you, AmPlink Plus. Let's shift gears and move to a little bit more of fun outside of work. What would be your dream holiday destination?
Oh, look, Canada has my heart, so
I love that.
I think every time I plan a holiday, I'll be planning to go to Whistler. But
snow?
I love the snow. Despite Jem wanting to go elsewhere, I think Canada's been my last 6 holidays.
Yeah, that's epic. I've never done it. It's definitely stunning. On the list. So Whistler's the pick?
It's convenient. Yes. It's stunning. It's you ski in, ski out. The town, it's been built for the mountain. Yeah. So,
snowboard, ski?
Look, I snowboard. I had a bit of a skiing incident while learning and
never went back.
Blew out one knee and was on crutches for a few weeks, so I'll stick to snowboarding for now.
Sounds good. Yeah. All right. So when you come off the ski field, what's your favourite meal and drink?
I'm a big Asian street food guy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, some young guys, chin-chins. I chase the cities to the street food, and then I'm a big wine drinker.
Yeah,
love a Shiraz.
I love it. We spoke about wine off air. Do you like a Margaret River Shiraz?
Margaret River, yeah. Look, I do. Jem's auntie lives down there, so every time we're down there, we spend.
Yeah, she's a Perth girl, Jem.
Perth girl. Yeah, quite a bit of time in Margaret River and at the wineries, and just on another scale down there.
Yeah, my hubby's favourite is Xanadu. Shout out to them with their Shiraz in Margaret River.
I'll write it down. I'll try it.
It's a good one. And Asian street food, we certainly have an abundance of choices here on the coast now. Certainly different to those days when we were at high school here on the coast. Yep. Fish and chips probably was.
Yeah, look, growing up in Noosa, it was quite a basic variety, but now it's definitely progressed, and where our favourite one is to go to Some Young Guys. It's pretty hard to beat Some Young Guys.
They absolutely do an amazing job, and I know they've got a new business opening up soon, which is exciting.
It's opening up in Harbour Town, Greek food, I believe.
Yes, awesome.
Very exciting.
Always a good excuse to head out for a bite to eat. Wine, red, you've already given us an indication, and so I did ask you, but I'm curious. So room temperature or chilled?
Look, I love both, and I think we were saying before, I'd never had it actually chilled before, and went to Chin Chin's down in Melbourne, and they pour it off tap on bar, and it's actually chilled. And since then, I've adjusted the wine fridge, and it stores all my red wine, and I serve it chilled, which is it's definitely a favourite now.
I am an absolute sucker for a red sangria, cut up all the fresh fruit. That is me, Sunshine Coast summer's day. And to end our amazing chat, Kieran, it's been so awesome to have you here. Like I said, you've interviewed me before. I've just absolutely loved getting to know you personally and professionally. You've been an instrumental supporter of my business. Your business has given, me an amazing platform. I've loved being there from the start. Loved your ability to take on feedback. We've been able to really fine tune and then to see you successfully rolling out the business to so many different, franchises. And I love that story as well with, Esk and, providing a tool to people that everybody deserves to have access to. I think that's really awesome. So to wrap us up, what is your favourite quote or motto that you live by?
I love a lot of Warren Buffett's work, and a quote. I probably won't quote it perfectly, but he said if everyone only gets one investment in their life, they're not going to muck it up. Mm-hmm. So I think it's spending more time and building a knowledge base around where you're going to go and spend your money, or where you're going to go and align your career to, and know what you're doing and know what you want to do. Setting some goals, and then from there making the decision to go and buy your biggest asset or change your career. So I think it just comes back down to planning and putting time towards it.
Yeah, and look, I'm really interested, that's just such a good, life motto, obviously, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So where do you draw your, personal and professional development, from? I know that you're always learning, like you said, but where do you get your inspiration and knowledge from?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time over probably the last 20 years reading a lot of books and really putting a focus into the business side, and it's always sort of drawn me in, and I've loved listening to it. And I've had a brain fart.
We all have them.
Well, we were on his house the other day, on the island the other day.
Richard Branson.
Hey,
good clue.
That ran away from me. And obviously seeing his work and
absolutely,
and, not being the most analytical person and so forth. So focusing a lot on his work, and then asking for help.
Yeah.
Going and sorting out mentors, and there's not a lot of people that'll say no.
You found that?
Yeah. Look,
awesome.
I've got a lot of mentors in a lot of different spaces now, and I think it's good to have the ability to go and ask questions, whether it's in the financial sector or whether it's to do with business or whether it's to do with just basic, life and health things. And I think the more people you have around you that you can lean on, then it makes it easier to make decisions and grow as a person or a business.
Absolutely. And what's really important for you is that sphere of influence, isn't it? That core people around you. I know that, is at the heart of who you are. Yeah,
look, I think it probably needs to be a bigger focus on a lot of people, as obviously, we hear it all day, every day, who you hang around you'll become. But I think also, sorting out the right mentorship, and all too often we see too many people sought advice from the wrong person, and it does shape and it does change the way a lot of people's trajectory. So
absolutely,
I think, step back, spend some time on your own, learn to enjoy the time on your own, and obviously be aware of your surroundings, and then make decisions and plan. People don't plan.
No,
we live
day
for
to
the
day,
next
moment to
month
moment,
or quarter,
paycheck.
and what you can get done in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years is a lot. And I think people need to step back and really realise and go, okay, well, instead of going the next 6 months I'm going to spend,
yes,
go, okay, what can I do in the next 10 years? And, assets I can acquire or businesses and so forth. So I think we don't spend enough time to really work on ourselves.
Yeah, we kind of had a chat about that off air, didn't we, about resilience and that sort of toughness. And, I think, we both really shared that ultimately we're, in an amazing opportunity. Both of us live in paradise. Yep. We've got the world ahead of us. We've got our health. We've got our happiness, and ultimately just a bit of bloody hard work.
Yeah, look, I think we said it before. You've only got to show up to be in front of 90% of the people, probably 99% of the people these days.
Yeah, so that extra 2%.
Yeah, look, and I think it goes back to obviously taking that structure and implementing it into your life, and just having being proud about what you do. If you rock up every day and you're a cleaner, or if you rock up every day and you mow lawns, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're passionate about it, you'll go far.
Absolutely.
So I think it's all too often we get told that we don't need to be told what to do anymore, or we don't need to put in the hard work. And I don't believe that that's the case. I think whatever you're doing, you do it to 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if that's not where you want to go with your career, you stop and you go and do something else.
Yeah.
Because if you start giving 20, 30%, that'll start to roll on, and it'll start to be who you are and how you go about your life. And we're seeing it all too often. I think people just need to go, no, cut ties, move on, go to the industry that they want to do and give it 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, coming back down to that making it look easy as well, isn't it? There's so much, there's so much hard work under the surface. And I think, very much our generation is very much about that, and not sugarcoating life. And I think that's really important. Was show the hard work, show the 70, 100 calls, of those 100 calls a day, what were the connects, what were the, key things, and how many times did somebody hang up on you? Like, I'm sure, I don't know, I'm not saying for you, but I'm sure that you weren't being like on Facebook, like 64 people hung up on me today. No. Like, you would have been like, got a listing or got an appraisal or got 3 appraisals. Like, we know what, success marketing is, but, there is something magic in the reality of life, and just building, mental toughness and resilience.
Yeah, and I think one of my favourite things was when I got hung up on was call them back and say, sorry, the line dropped out.
Yeah.
They would never hang up on you twice.
Yeah.
Because they're in shock that you called them back. So,
that's awesome.
Catching them off guard or going and knocking on the door and say, hey, sorry, the phone dropped out. So I'd pop out. They won't know what to do.
I love it.
Mix it up.
Courageous conversations. Well, Kieran, it has been amazing to have you on board.
Thank you.
I hope there's many future conversations ahead. Wishing you all the best with your journey ahead and keeping, in close contact and kicking goals together.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Signboard. We trust you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it for you. If there are any topics you want covered in the future, make sure you reach out and let us know. Also, feedback and suggestions are appreciated, almost as much as likes, shares and downloads.